Welcome to Whimsy Woven Stories, where imagination takes flight and every tale is a journey into wonder. Here, we breathe life into the pages of timeless stories and create new adventures that spark joy and curiosity. Whether you're a lover of classic fairy tales, fantastical adventures, or heartwarming fables, you'll find a story to capture your heart and stir your imagination. Join us as we weave a tapestry of whimsy and wonder, one story at a time.
At 11:23 p.m., Friday night, 22 nights before MY 25th anniversary, my doorbell rings. That annoying ding-dong, okay, during the day, but irritating when it wakes you from a slumber close to midnight. I had dozed off watching what turned out to be a terrible movie. When my wife left in an Uber, I had time on my hands, no kids at home anymore to worry about. I was putting in time waiting for my wife to get home from girls' night out. It had become my habit to wait up for her. I wanted to make her feel uncomfortable sneaking home after girls' night because things were not as they should be in our house after a lifetime together. It was 3 weeks from tomorrow until our 25th wedding anniversary. It should have been something to look forward to, a big family celebration, but that was not going to happen. My wife turned out to be a cheating cunt. I had no intention of being in her life when that landmark anniversary arrived. It was just that, as yet, she didn't know what I knew. We married young, had children quickly, and were now empty nesters with no kids at home to worry about in a split. The thing is, I had no intention of divorcing her. I was going to murder her. I found out 9 months ago that not only was she cheating with her longtime boss, but that she probably had been for several years. Her boss happens to be my brother, Jake. My big, handsome brother, the family's favorite son, the guy who was 2 years older than me, the life and soul of any party, and in whose shadow I'd lived all my life. I discovered their betrayal all those months ago when she accidentally left her phone open when she went off to get ready for girls' night. I lifted her phone to give it to her and hit a button genuinely accidentally. That fired up the screen. There was a notification of a WhatsApp message with the first few words clearly visible. Why did she have a message from my brother at home? They'd been together at work most of the day. More disturbing, the message could not be clearer. Is your cunt ready for? That was all the notification quoted, so I opened her WhatsApp conversation with Jake and was able to see this message and many more. Is your cunt ready for my big cock to pound you tonight? See you in the usual place. I booked room 245. Just come to the room. See you at 7:30. Wish we could stay the night, but I suppose you will have to get back to little brother. The messages went back a long way, and there was all the evidence of these two pieces of pond scum cheating on me over many months. What really pissed me off, even beyond the obvious betrayal, was the way they talked about him providing when I couldn't. My wife joined my brother in mocking and disparaging me as a man, lover, and husband. If my wife had been aware of how my feelings for her had cooled over recent months, she made a good job of hiding it. Sure, there were times when she asked if I was okay, when we had quiet evenings with no chat, no touching, none of the gentle gestures common between husband and wife. I always brushed it off as nothing, hoping it at least worried her about the future. Obviously, she wasn't bothered that our sex life had seriously diminished. She probably hadn't noticed because it seemed from their messages that she was having her needs attended to 3 or 4 times a week, between when they could at work and girls' night, every Friday. Judging by the messages, it must have been a great relief to her not to have to pretend to enjoy sex with me, the bitch. If she no longer loved me, she could have ended our marriage and fucked who she wanted. But instead, she fucked around on me like a low-life skank. I'd have preferred divorce even though it would have hurt, as I've loved her completely before I saw that fateful message. The one exception in our sex life came when my brother and his family were away to Florida for 2 weeks. She seemed to be getting increasingly amorous as the first weekend rolled around. She was plastering her body against me late at night and early morning. I hate fucked her twice during that fortnight, but she was clearly mystified by my lack of interest most times. I wish I could have resisted her even more, but not only was I in need of a little relief, but I didn't want her to understand by ignoring her completely that I knew she was a cheating slut. So why did I just not confront them? Easy. I was working through my plan to murder them. Yeah, you thought I was being a doormat for these two pieces of shit-cheating bastards. No, I was hoping to avoid a life in prison, but ultimately, if that was how the cards would fall, I'd rather live with that than the hurt of the betrayal of my wife and brother. Over long months, I'd had time to run through literally dozens of plans to end them. Of course, wanting them both dead was the big problem. They were usually only together when they were fucking, at work, or at a family occasion. How to kill them without it being too obvious that I'd done it. I thought of paying for a drive-by shooting, but that would not risk innocent lives, not least my own at a family gathering. I considered if there was a possible way to use carbon monoxide poisoning, a silent killer. Yes, there were cases in hotels, but the place they used for their tryst was ultra-modern, using solar energy for most of the heating and electrical need, so unlikely. I pondered so many scenarios and saw problems in each. I had begun to find being normal around either of them increasingly tough, especially when we were all together as a family. They were just on the right side of not being too obvious, assuming their audience knew nothing of their affair. But to me, knowing that they were cheaters of the worst kind, I saw the little looks and gestures, the occasional touch when they thought nobody was looking. Lovey fucking dove, making my fury rise over the months. It made me sick to my stomach, knowing the thrill they were getting, showing each other how much they enjoyed fucking me over. Not just the sex, the whole intimacy they really should own together. In my mind, their actions were showing how much they disrespected and almost certainly hated me. Why they hated me, I had no idea. I'd always been supportive, if a bit jealous of my brother, and I'd never given my wife any reason for her disrespect. I treated her well in and out of bed, and she never had sex with me without at least one orgasm, often more. Now I was just about at the end of my tether. I had formed my final plan, dumb though it was. I had resolved that I was going to discover their cheating and shoot both of them, then take my chances with the justice system, hoping to use a plea of temporary insanity in my anguish, but realizing I was almost certainly headed for a long prison sentence and the destruction of my own life, just as much as theirs. Ideally, I'd have found a plan that let me reveal what I knew to them and have them live in fear for a short time, expecting divorce and family breakup for both their marriages while in my own mind being clear I will be killing them. I just couldn't see a way to achieve it. I decided to kill them both just before our 25th anniversary. That was not negotiable. I would not celebrate 25 years with my cunt of a wife. By chance, the anniversary fell on a Saturday, so my final plan was to follow her on the regular Friday girls' night to the hotel, find which room they were in, then blood would flow, and I'd look them both in the eye as I killed them. Ding dong, shit, someone is at the door. Dumb cunt must have forgotten her keys. Coming, I shouted, but when I opened the door, instead of my cunt wife, there stood two police officers. The older told me who they were, Officers O'Reilly and Bukowski, and could they please come in? I ushered them in, and they looked oh so solemn before O'Reilly spoke. Sir, are you Mr. Richards, husband of Irene Richards? I nodded my confirmation. He continued, Mr. Richards, I'm sorry to tell you that your wife has been in a fatal motor accident this evening. Sir, your brother Jacob was driving the car they were in, and he has also lost his life. Before he could add anything, I started cackling like a maniac. I couldn't believe my luck. Not only was I saved from prison, but we had long-standing insurance policies, one to pay off the mortgage on the event of the first death so the remaining spouse would not become forced to sell. Sure, it was almost paid off, so not a big burden, but there was the other policy, $500,000 cover on each of us. Not only was I not going to prison, but I would also be hugely better off financially. The officers looked at me with concern and asked if they could call someone to be with me in this tragic hour. No, officers, thank you for your concern, but life has just done me a favor. Those two have been having an affair for 9 months. I spent almost all my waking hours trying to work out how to end it. Now it is ended. That's natural justice, officers. I'm fine. In fact, I want to have a drink to celebrate. Would you care to join me? They declined, of course, being on duty, not to mention they thought I was a bastard for feeling good about my wife and brother's deaths. They left, asking me to call the morgue tomorrow morning to do proper identification. I thought I had been wise not to tell them that I'd planned to kill both cunts in less than 3 weeks' time. No point in inviting complications. I'd show my true feelings to the officers, but I'd play the devastated husband briefly with friends and family until I collected the insurance monies to clear my mortgage and fatten my wallet. That night, I slept like a baby and went the next morning to make sure that they had not come back to life during the night. When I got to the morgue, I viewed both bodies. My sister-in-law couldn't face it and asked that I identify Jake as well as Irene. The orderly had warned me, and fuck, what a mess. Yeah, from the looks of both of them, it may have been quick, but oh, how I hoped they had time to see what was coming and that it had been painful, no matter how briefly. Turns out that the driver of an 18-wheeler had punched in too many miles an hour that day, fell asleep at the wheel, and plowed through a red light, running over and through them, leaving the car in two separate pieces and the occupants with zero future. How very fucking sad. There had thankfully been no resurrections during the night. Both remained stone dead, ready for hell's fire. Well, a good solid cremation in her case. If anyone wanted her ashes, they were welcome to them. I'd throw them in the nearest dumpster. My problem solved that I'd struggled with for 9 months. No need for me to damage my own future. In a way, I'd have loved to confront them before killing them, but this was a large slice of luck. I got the bitch out of my future with no repercussions. Got to love karma. Life goes on, but not for that pair of cheaters. I could smile again after 9 months of heartbreaking torment. Fuck them both. In the following weeks, I played the part of the grieving husband perfectly. I shed the necessary tears, attended the funeral, and accepted the condolences. People were kind and supportive, unaware of the relief and joy I felt beneath the surface. I couldn't wait to move on, to enjoy my newfound freedom and the financial windfall that awaited me. The insurance payout came through without a hitch. I paid off the mortgage, invested wisely, and started making plans for my future. I even started dating again, enjoying the company of women who appreciated me for who I was, not the shadow I had been under my brother and wife's betrayal. One evening, while I was relaxing at home with a glass of whiskey, the doorbell rang again. This time, it wasn't annoying. It was late, but I was wide awake, savoring the peace and quiet of my new life. I opened the door, expecting a friend or a neighbor. Instead, I found a man in a suit standing there, holding a briefcase. He introduced himself as Mr. Thompson, a private investigator. "Mr. Richards, may I come in? I have some information that might interest you." Curiosity piqued. I let him in and offered him a drink. He declined and got straight to the point. "Mr. Richards, I've been investigating the circumstances surrounding your wife's death. You see, her boss, your brother Jake, had some enemies. Powerful enemies." My heart skipped a beat. This was new. "What do you mean?" Jake was involved in some shady business deals. He was laundering money for some very dangerous people. When they found out about his affair with your wife, they saw an opportunity to send a message. I stared at him, my mind racing. "You mean the accident?" "It wasn't an accident, Mr. Richards. It was a hit. The truck driver was paid off to ensure that Jake and your wife didn't make it home that night." I felt a cold chill run down my spine. The relief I had felt turned into a new kind of horror. They were murdered, not just a twist of fate, but a deliberate act of vengeance. "But why tell me this now?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Because the people who ordered the hit believe that you might have known about Jake's activities. They think you might be a loose end." Panic set in. I had thought my troubles were over, but now it seemed they were just beginning. "What can I do?" I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. Thompson looked at me sympathetically. "You need to disappear, Mr. Richards. Take the money, change your identity, and start a new life. It's the only way to stay safe." I sat there, numb, realizing that my life was once again being torn apart. The irony was bitter. I had wanted to kill my wife and brother, but someone else had done it for me. Now, I was the one who had to run, to hide, to start over. With Thompson's help, I sold everything, liquidated my assets, and vanished. I became a ghost, living under a new name in a new city, always looking over my shoulder. In the end, I got my freedom, but at a price I had never imagined. Karma had indeed played its hand, but not in the way I had expected. The lesson was clear. Sometimes the plans we make are nothing compared to the plans life has for us. Life goes on, but it is never the same. Hey listeners, thanks for tuning in to Whimsy Woven Stories. Like the video and drop a comment, and hit subscribe for new audio stories every day.